Want to break down on some of the latest topics from college to the pros? We interview many individuals to share their knowledge about the news stories surrounding the teams and its players. This is Nothing But That Sports Talk.
And welcome back to Nothing But That Sports Talk. I'm Rafique Louison alongside my very special guest, Kelsey Necole Nelson. She has done amazing work for Fox Sports Radio. She's done for ESPN Radio, Big East, you name it, everything you can think of. Welcome to the show today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's a true honor and privilege to be here with you today.
Not to mention, she is an alum for Maryland and Georgetown.
Yes. Shout out to the Hoyas and the Terps.
Yeah. I know it must be an honor to go to two different schools down in the Maryland, Washington area. I mean, you growing up in that area. How is it? What went through your mind when you decided to get into journalism?
Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to be a journalist. Ever since I was little, my parents would always say I'd be watching the news with them, trying to figure out what's going on, reporting stories, and I've always loved sports. So to get to go to Maryland, a top journalism school and learn from some of the best in the business, it was honestly an honor and a privilege, and I'm glad to be now a proud Maryland alum. I'm proud to be a Georgetown alum, and now I'm proud to give back to the programs that I graduated from, helping the next crop of journalists and sports industry management people. So it's been fun. It's been like life really does come full circle, but truly honored and privileged to go to schools, two of the biggest schools in the area where I grew up. So I love the DMV area. I went to school here because I love it. And I still live here and cover the sports teams because the DMV has just been so blessed to keep welcoming me with open arms and allowing me to do the job that I love each and every day.
Yeah. And that is amazing. I mean, just imagine going to big name schools, Georgetown, the one where Patrick Ewing went to and his son went to.
Hoyas access.
And then you get to Maryland. The women's team made to the Final Four back-to-back years at one point in 2010s.
Talk about great basketball, right? I picked two schools that do it very well. So it was great to get to cover just basketball at some of the highest levels. And then even now, I've had the privilege and honor of being the sideline reporter covering Georgetown women's basketball for the Big East Digital Network. And they've just been doing tremendous things. And I don't need to talk about Maryland women's basketball. You guys know each and every year they're always a contender, never a pretender. So, it's a blessing. And they're why I did not play sports in college, because I was not good enough to beat any of those girls on any of those basketball teams. So the next best thing was covering them.
Yeah, you could have easily played on the basketball team if you wanted to.
I would have been right on the bench.
Because, you have the basketball mentality after watching the interviews, especially since not too long before I got on the call, I saw you interviewing Jalen Rose, a certain ESPN analyst, a former Indiana Pacer and Toronto Raptors, who knows what it's like to compete against the late Kobe Bryant and the Lakers in the NBA Finals in that one appearance for the Indiana Pacers. And Jalen Rose, not only does he have a voice as an analyst, but he has it on the podcasting side as well, having his own show for ESPN. He does it all.
He does. Jalen is a man of many trades and also one of the most humble, down-to-earth people you could ever meet. So it's an honor and privilege to have the big wigs like him allow someone like me to just talk with him. And it was great because I got to know Jalen outside of sports. I got to know him through being the founder of his Jalen Rose Leadership Academy, which is a charter school that, of course, he started in his hometown of Detroit, where he's graduating all students, and these students are going on to college. And just to see his joy and expression for really helping these students succeed in life, it was truly an honor and privilege, and an interview that I'll always remember.
Yeah, growing up when he first started, I thought it was just going to be like a contributor once in a blue moon, but just seeing him on TV when I turned to NBA Countdown, those were just the days.
He's a natural. We all love watching Jalen, right? Like, I live for Jalen and Jacoby. He just does it with such ease and flow and brings us all in, and he storytells. Jalen is a young journalist. For young journalists, I highly recommend watching the job that Jalen Rose does. He's there for a reason, and he's good at it. He's very, very good at it. He's a man that just succeeds, it seems like, in everything that he does. So yeah, it was great meeting him, an honor and privilege, truly. And again, I still love watching him on TV each and every day like the rest of you.
Yeah. I understand that you have your own platform for Fox Sports Radio called Listening with KNN.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your experience putting that together and being a part on there as a whole.
Yeah, so Listening with K&N was my baby, my brainchild, right? I have no kids, but if I had kids, Listening with K&N would definitely be one of them, just because it's something I got to grow from infancy. And, you know, it's crazy to think, I think this started back in 2017. And To think that we're here in 2020 now. I am almost at 140 episodes for the audio version. When COVID-19 hit, we started a live stream version, and it's just taken off. And I've got to have some of the biggest names in sports. It's truly just an honor. And I call it Listen In with Kanan because essentially it's a conversation I'm having with one guest. We're just talking. And essentially I feel like my audience is kind of eavesdropping on our conversation. And I want them to listen in. They get to ask live questions during the show and interact with us. But they just see, and I go where the conversation goes. You know, wherever we start going is where we will go. Of course, like I have things I always want to cover, but I just really like to flow with my guests. And it's about 30 minutes to an hour long, depending on how long I'm able to have the guests. But we touch on just so many topics and so many things. It's definitely a podcast show that everyone should listen to. And I highly recommend watching the live stream. You'll hear just a different side of athletes like you'll never hear before. And then all I ask for every show is people to learn something and to have fun. Every show, you should be laughing at least one time, and you should learn something at the end of the interviews, gain a new piece of knowledge and a new set. So it's a joy. I love that everyone loves it. And I continue to keep bringing the people what they want. So we'll have a lot more audio versions coming this summer, a lot more live stream versions coming this summer. Wednesday, everyone needs to tune in at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because I'll be welcoming special guest Amari Stoudemire to the show. So very excited to have him join me from Tel Aviv. Man. So people should tune in and watch.
You gotta connect me to the Amari Stoudemire because that is major right there.
I'm excited.
He turned the Knicks around for about a half a season until Carmelo Anthony decided to make the Knicks an offensive team in 2011. But
it's going to be a fun conversation, as you already alluding to.
But the Knicks are garbage. What you expect? They're so garbage. They didn't even get invited to play in Orlando when the NBA comes back in July.
Yeah.
If the NBA comes back in July, even though
that's the big question, right?
It's mostly a go, but it's not a go. You've seen it for the coronavirus cases. They're struggling what New York was struggling with 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. It seems like every time you wake up, it seems like you go on your Twitter timeline and you see all of these new cases coming out of Orlando, and in your mind, you're like, wait, how in the world next month are we going to have an NBA playing here? You know, you saw we already had one Wizards player say, hey, I'm not going down to Orlando. I'm about to be a free agent. I'm not taking that risk. And you wonder if more players will be that way. But also the leagues, you have to think, the WNBA, the NBA have to really think about player safety. And right now, COVID, unfortunately, is not going down. You know, phase 2 is essentially here and coming. So what do we do to keep all the players safe? So, you know, of course, I want the NBA to be back like everybody else, but I don't think anything is worth human life or human risk. So we'll see, you know, where things go.
Speaking of WNBA players not knowing any risk, knowing the risk, Renee Montgomery and Atlanta Dream led them to the NBA Finals. Decided to sit out the season for the sake of social justice. That's a real WNBA player right there.
Yeah,
that's being real about it. And I saw some footage of where she was giving back to community down in downtown Atlanta. The lady is not playing around. I'm gonna tell you what I told ladies for the Women's Hoops podcast. She's not playing around when it comes to giving back to the community. You see what's been going on. You see the devastation that we have to deal with thanks to certain idiots in Atlanta that gunned down Rayshon Brooks and the idiot that really beat down. You know what? I ain't gonna even get so much. You know what's going on.
Yeah, it's hard, right? We see what happened in Atlanta. We're marching, we're protesting for justice to happen. You know, far too often we see the unjust side of our justice system. But what Renee Montgomery is doing is not new. WNBA players have for a long time been calling to justice and bringing attention to social injustices here in this country. Maya Moore is somebody who, remember, look at what she did with her season, taking off to fight for social justice. Now Renee Montgomery is doing it. I think we continue to see, especially Black women, leading the charge and leading the cause, saying enough is enough. I am an athlete, but I'm more than an athlete. This cause right now requires more of my attention right now than the WNBA does. And I think the WNBA should be proud to have players that are all around, right? They're more than just basketball. They're more than just athletes. And they're really bringing change and attention to issues that affect us all. So I'm proud to see it. I think she's just a rock star. She's an amazing broadcaster, player, and now social justice advocate. So she just keeps adding to her resume, and I think she's truly someone everyone should be following.
Yeah, I know. I can only imagine. You mentioned that you were an athlete. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your athletic career? Where'd you play ball? Like, what made you decide to stop being an athletic human being?
I wouldn't say I'm not athletic anymore. But no, being an athlete was really, I mean, what got me into sports. I've always been competitive. Growing up, I was always on the taller side. So quite naturally, everyone knew I would play sports. But I did a little bit of everything growing up. I did soccer, I played tennis, volleyball, basketball. That kind of took me through high school. But when I was going to school, I actually got an academic scholarship. As much as I love sports, I was not trying to go to a D3 school or even D2. And I knew, I love sports, but guess what? I knew I wasn't going to go pro to the WNBA. I didn't think I had that skill set, even though I love playing sports. Let me tell you, I still love playing basketball now. I still will play a game of pickup. But essentially, I knew the next best thing if I couldn't play professionally or even collegiately was to cover the game. And that's why, obviously, I love my job as a sports broadcaster and a sports journalist, because I'm still right next to the game. I still have probably the best seat in the house, especially when I'm sideline reporting. And I love it. I love it. I have a different viewpoint of the game. I think when you play, you obviously look at the game differently. And you're able to pull those tidbits that you learned as an athlete to a broadcast. And it really helps you understand the game better and have more just the general broad understanding. And then, of course, as a journalist, too, I pick up on things, hopefully, that I remember from playing. So my playing career, my athletic career was great. I'm still a basketball court queen, I'd like to say. I think I can still beat a lot of people in a good game of pickup. But, I truly miss it. But that's why I love broadcasting. So I'm right next to it. And I still feel like I'm right there, when I get to report on these amazing, talented athletes that I get to do each and every day.
Yeah, that is so inspiring. I mean, I tried to play basketball in high school, and I didn't really make the team in any of the seasons.
Look, it's not a bad thing.
But you know what?
Your calling was different,
when
right?
I went, but you know what? When I went to a little Canarsie reunion, because almost a year and a half ago, they were honoring my former coach, the former coach for the varsity basketball team, the late Coach Allen. He was I told one of the old coaches who was the coach for JV at the time when I went to high school that, listen, if I can't play basketball, why not journalize it? That's exactly what you have right now.
Yeah, that's the next best thing, right? Telling the story.
Journalizing everything.
Right.
If you look at my recent interviews on my YouTube channel and on my IGTV, you would know the growth that I'm having with this platform. Like, the same way, pretty much the same thing, your content. My Nothing But the Sports Talk platform is my baby right there.
Yeah, as it should be. I always tell people, if you start something, own it. Don't start something if you're not going to own it. This is you. This is what you wanted to put your work in. You worked hard to get to this point. And so you need to treat it and act like it's everything that's yours, because if you want other people to look at it like their baby, you better treat it like your baby, market it, sell it, and make them love it like it's your own child. And I think that's what you're doing. And that's why when you ask me, no problem, I'll come on. And we had to work with scheduling because my schedule's crazy, but we're here. We made it, and now we're talking the latest and greatest in sports, right?
Speaking of schedule being crazy, what is life like being a journalist right now with the schedules that you have?
It's so funny because when COVID first came, I think everybody was kind of like, oh, Kelsey, are you still going to have sports to cover? What are you going to be doing? Lo and behold, I'm probably busier now just because I have no cutoff switch. Like the time it used to take me to commute in and out of DC in the city or sit in traffic, now I've turned that time into work time. Now I'm planning, my next and greatest guests. I mean, I have a great team I work with and meet with. The reason why I'm able to have so many great guests is because we game plan, we strategize. And then even now, you have to find feature stories outside of sports, right? We know we're not playing sports now, but what else is going on? So we're able to tie in the societal issues, we're able to see what athletes are doing. And a lot of them are able to connect with us because some of them, we think they all have these big fancy houses. Some of them didn't have a gym like the rest of us, working out with water bottles and whatever else is in their fridge, so you just have to find a way to tell the story and connect and still find a way to give the people content. Since every day is a different story I'm trying to tell. Every day is something I'm trying to reach for and grow. And even on my show, I've tried to have a wide range of guests, current athletes, former athletes, wide range of demographics, because I want different stories to connect with all the different viewers that listen to my show. So it's busy, it's nonstop. You wake up in the morning, you're looking for stories, you're trying to tweet stories out, you're trying to break news, you're trying to plan for the next shows. So it's a bunch, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. It keeps me busy. It definitely is a 24/7 job. I probably took off for the first day for Father's Day to really spend a great day with my dad, but it's going. But at the same time, I'm living my dream. So is there no complaints? No, because this is what I work for.
Yeah, no complaints whatsoever. I understand recently you were involved in the National Association of Black Journalists panel alongside Michael Evans. What was that like?
With Michael Eaves, yeah. So it was
Michael
great.
Eaves. I said Michael.
We knew it, Truman. No problem. It was great. We got to talk about the power of Instagram TV, which you're obviously doing, and our shows. So all of us have shows that we're doing and promoting. Of course, mine is Listening with Kay, and I'm able to show it on various platforms. But essentially, what the panel was talking about is that now with COVID and people being home and you being home, it's the greatest time to push and promote your content. And doing it live is one of the greatest ways to do that. Of course, I know some people say, what do you need to be in the business? You need experience. Sometimes you're like, well, hey, I can't get experience because I haven't had the chance. So now at home and with technology and live streaming and so many other things like we're doing, you're able to practice live like me and you are doing, right? You're able to go and you're able to create content and connect with viewers and tell your story. This is the time to do it because when we come from COVID, you want the people that are watching you now to stay with you. So now you're trying to hook them. And then once you hook them, you're hoping they'll continue to follow along in your journey. So we tried to talk the importance of that, stress the importance of that, give tips and tricks, to the next crop of journalists so we can all be pushing and promoting great content out here for the people to see.
Yeah, and also connecting people to the best journalism jobs possible when everything is over. That's exactly the beauty of it. So, and this is why, reason why I mention this because I understand that you're also a National Association of Black Journalists ambassador for is Sports Task Force. What is some of the work you do there?
Yeah, so this is our mentoring program where we are really helping the next crop of sports journalists. So I have an amazing mentee, Annalise Bailey, who works with USA Today, and she's actually up here in the DMV area. But it's great. I connect with her. She's able to ask me questions, get advice, learn how to navigate the industry, see who to network with. And it's an awesome program. I have to give special props to Sports Task Force President A. Sherrod Blakely for starting this, getting me involved in it. At NABJ in Miami, it was great to be an ambassador and again, help out just these hungry journalists who make me so excited about the future of sports journalism. And it's been amazing. Justin Walters is another one that does it with me. And I'm so glad people trust us to do this. But it's great. There's nothing better than when you are happy in your own life and succeeding in your own career to reach out and give back, because I wouldn't be where I am. So many others wouldn't be where they are without the help of others. So it's great to be a part of that. The Sports Task Force is probably stronger than ever and it keeps going. And it's just, I feed off of the energy, but it's great to be able to mentor just so many amazing mentees in the program that I cannot wait till the world sees the great work that they're about to do.
Yeah, it'll be great for because, well, a year ago, I graduated from Ford University.
Congratulations.
Before that, I graduated from LIU in 2018. Having two different journalism programs. And, well, I started this platform originally as nothing but that b-ball talk. And ever since then, I've just been interviewing ever since I graduated. When I wasn't getting a real job, I just used this time to interview people like you. And
yeah.
I've just been.
That's what you do. I always tell people, if you're not given a lane, make your own one. I always give the example, right? If you're out house shopping and you don't see the house you like, buy a piece of land and build it. Now more than ever, thanks to technology, you don't necessarily need that job to get people to view your work. You can grow your own brand through social media, and it's the most powerful tool and weapon, because if you're out there, people will find you, right? Just keep putting out the right content. I think that's what's so special about the current time that we're living in.
Okay, but what was like one of the first stories that you've done when you went to Maryland University doing journalism?
Oh my gosh, at Maryland, there's so many. I mean, our basketball team always had some great storylines, especially our women's basketball team. And then our football team always had great stories. I think probably the best story that I got to cover was I was at Maryland when we transitioned from the ACC to the Big Ten. That was a huge, huge deal, especially for people that went to Maryland. You have to remember, Maryland for a long time, we were in this ACC conference where, Duke and North Carolina, those were our rivals, right? We couldn't wait to beat those schools. And all of a sudden we're going to the Big Ten, like, wait, hold up. These are schools that we're not used to. And of course, in the long run, it was about how much more money Maryland would get being members of the Big Ten. But it was different. You had a lot of alumni that weren't happy, right? Because you changed the matchups and the stories. And then, of course, in the Big Ten, basketball-wise, I think Maryland was able to transfer over well. But football-wise, we're still getting our footing in the Big Ten in football, right? Like, Maryland is not a powerhouse threat in Big Ten football, but they're trying to get there. So getting to cover that was probably something I'll always remember, and being there in that moment, I'll just never forget, because it was a big change for the athletic program at Maryland. It was something that people weren't expecting. So when it came, it was kind of like, wow, shocker, like any and everything it was crazy. So that's probably one of the biggest stories I got to cover while I was an undergrad at Maryland.
Yeah, it's a shame you couldn't cover it because they remember, like I said earlier in the podcast, Maryland had made it to the Final Four back-to-back years, which is funny enough. I don't know if you know Overtime, the sports publication Overtime. Chloe, before she got into Overtime, used to play for that roster. I mean, she
Yeah,
had one
she
game
was
where
at Maryland. Yeah.
she scored 20 points in a game against Miami when they were the number 24th ranked team at the time.
Yeah.
Judging by the research, statistically, she's but she could still ball. I seen her ball at Rucker Park one
But
time.
that's the thing. Chloe's an amazing athlete, and I'm blessed. We went to Maryland around the same time. But that's how good Maryland's basketball roster is. Everybody's good. Everybody's a beast, right? Like to play at Maryland, you're like the top of the top of the top of the top.
And I know it must have been an honor also watching Satori Walker Kimball.
Yes. I love watching, and especially when she was here playing for the Mystics. I like when I get to cover Maryland play, and the Mystics do so well at keeping Maryland players here or bringing them back home. It's always a joy, and that's the great thing about going to Maryland. You're usually watching a future WNBA player because that's how good their basketball program is.
Yeah, Walker Kimball was no joke playing for
Washington. Girl can
play. Senior championship run. And funny enough, it was around the same month that the Washington Nationals won the World Series, possibly the last World Series.
It was a good time in DC. We are calling ourselves the District of Champions. It's a fun time to cover sports in the District of Columbia. Of course, we're waiting for our Washington Redskins and Washington Wizards to catch up. But for now, the Cats, the Nats, and the Mystics are owning it. So we are. Yeah, and then even our arena football team had won a championship. So it's been good times in the DMV area.
Yeah, it's also good when you're making New York teams miserable.
Sorry about that.
You made the Mets miserable, and now the New York Knicks.
Yeah, sorry. I have no words for that. At least Patrick is at the helm of Georgetown now, right? We got him coaching Georgetown men's basketball, and hopefully we'll be able to turn that, that team around in the future for longevity in the Big East.
You want to know who else is the future? Sabrina Ionescu.
Oh, yes. I'm excited. I'm so excited to see her.
That's only assuming that she wants to play in Florida with the cases going on.
Yeah.
It's going to change the face of the Liberty franchise forever.
Yeah.
Although I am a little annoyed that they had to trade Tina Charles to the Washington Mystics.
We're not annoyed. DC is like back to back, right? We're getting that addition. It's like they might be able to do it.
On your roster. Be proud of that.
We're not mad at Elena Deladon at all. I mean, the girl can ball. The girl can ball. She's a big reason why the Mystics were able to get that championship last season. I had a privilege of covering, and I won't forget that series. But Elena Deladon has just been, not even just in terms of basketball, but she's been doing so much great community work, and DC has really embraced and loved her. And, so glad to have her part of that franchise.
Yeah, you mentioned you covered the WNBA finals with the Washington Mystics and the Connecticut Sun. I know a lot of people that covered it, like I know Christina Williams, Ari, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Latana Robinson. Oh, yeah. Camila from Slam Magazine. So many women. I mean, I'm a black male being inspired by women covering the WNBA finals.
I love it.
That is just so amazing.
Yeah, our WNBA Twitter and coverage is strong. And you said some of the biggest names in the game. And let me tell you, the group of journalists that cover the WNBA, we are serious. We are there for them because we know the sport deserves more coverage. And so those that cover it treat it with such respect that it should. And just being able to cover, and this was a great series we had. I mean, between the Suns and the Mystics, what great basketball it was. And it was great getting to cover that last game. Having Vivica Fox was there in the stands covering it. You have Rebecca Lobo on the call. Like, it was such a magical moment. They won it at their brand new home in Southeast Washington, D.C., the Entertainment and Sports Complex. And then for the Mystics to be able to do that for the first time in franchise history, no moment like that. And especially for me growing up in this area, having covered that team, I mean, really having watched that team since I was little, to see them do that, it was just an amazing all around spirit and get.
And a way to redeem themselves from losing the finals the previous year.
Oh, don't remind us that was tough here in DC. But they were able to do it, and now we're screaming back to back.
That's only if they even want the season to happen. Renee Montgomery walked away.
That's a good question, yeah.
it's kind of mixed feelings about it because of the social injustice going on. And when I spoke to Christina Williams, she said that
Yeah.
it's hard to think about the season when you have social injustice and the coronavirus going on. And I don't blame her for that. Speaking of
Yeah.
Christina Williams, you just watch her all interviews where she covered the Liberty last year. If they was playing in New York City, I would love to cover a Liberty game. Love to.
Yes, you definitely should. You definitely should. I encourage every journalist, if you really care about sports and you really want to hone your craft and be an objective journalist, you need to cover women's sports. Women's basketball is a great way to start.
Yeah, I know. But aside from that, what is the most disappointing moment in 2020, not just in sports, but in general? The death of Kobe Bryant, or
Oh
Steve
my
Jackson
gosh.
losing his best friend with the knee down?
That's a hard one. I think 2020 has given us just so many low blows, so many hard and difficult moments to process. I think many would say, after we unfortunately lost Kobe, 2020 changed tides. And I think that was rough. I think that was rough for the sports world. But I think I'd be remiss to say, I think the hardest moment has been so many lives that we lost to COVID-19. It hit so many families just so hard. We're still trying to look for a cure, and we can't bring people back. These are people that are forever lost. And we don't want them to die in vain. So I think, as we try to make the game safer and try to protect people, I think COVID, and it just gave us a new reality. Like, life will never be the same post COVID. Like, we have a whole new reality. So I think COVID-19 was probably just the biggest low blow because, one, I don't think we were well prepared. And then even now, I think we're still trying to figure it out together. But unfortunately, I think there's so many mixed messages. This is why you see some with face masks, some without. But we have to all do our part to keep each other safe because we want everybody to live a long, healthy life. And then we do want sports back. So to get sports back, we need to make sure that we're all following guidelines and make sure that we're all following rules.
Yeah, but how was the cases like down in Washington, Maryland area for where you are?
Yeah, so we got hit pretty hard, especially where I am in Maryland. And we actually just reopened up phase 2 on Friday. I think now they're kind of declining, but you have to be very safe. You have to wear your face mask in every establishment that you go to. But it's still scary times here. Everyone's taking the precautions. Restaurants have changed completely to following the safety measures and habits. But, we're just trying to keep people safe. But unfortunately, no, we still have a death toll. I think one death is too many, so we're still trying to just get safer and find that cure. But luckily Maryland, the DMV area, but especially Maryland and our governor, I think did a really phenomenal job with making sure that there was enough testing to go around where we're not short on testing. So people are able to get enough of the COVID-19 test.
Luckily, we had the Michael Jordan documentary to keep us entertained. What do you think about that?
Oh my gosh, The Last Dance was great. I think we needed it. We were all stuck at home and watching along, and then MJ is just one of those goats and those people that we love watching. So it was great to, get to watch that series and get to learn about the makings of MJ. And I had the privilege of having Jasmine Jordan on, MJ's oldest daughter, on my show, and just getting her perspective as well as we watched Last Dance series, which is something magical and something special.
Yeah, I know. I mean, one of my favorite moments is when they retold the whole championship seasons, and they retold the whole rivalry that the Chicago Bulls had with the Detroit Pistons. The bad boy Pistons with Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer. When I rewatched that, it kind of reminded me of how LeBron James finally took out the Pistons in 2007 with that crazy 48-point performance in Game 5.
Yeah.
I mean,
it took us back through so many great series matchups, right?
Yeah, I mean, you barely lost to them, and then you swept them in the conference finals to get to your first NBA Finals appearance. The Pistons just had it all.
Yeah.
They literally had it all. Like,
to say the least, right? They did. It was great. I think we got to be taken up to some of those classic matchups that we all love. And again, I think we got to see a side of Jordan that maybe not all of us knew. And I think especially for people like me, 90s babies and beyond, it was great just getting to relive that life as adults now, right? Because when you were younger, you look at things differently than you do now as an adult. So the series was needed. I think he dropped it at the perfect time. And I think it gave us all a nice little break from COVID just to look at something other than COVID-19 coverage.
I know. What is your favorite episode from Michael Jordan special?
I will say it's hard to choose just one. I will say the kid in me loved learning about the behind the scenes of Space Jam and what was going on. Because, growing up, Space Jam was definitely one of my favorite movies. But I think for me, the scene that I took the most from was seeing how hard it was for Jordan. I think we all knew how hard it was when he lost his dad, but like seeing him on the floor crying right after that game win and what it meant to him, and then seeing his motivations and why baseball was so important and near and dear to his heart. I think that was a special moment in seeing, because I think it showed us a softer side of Jordan. We got to see a more vulnerable side of Jordan, and it really, really let us into some of his like insights and motivation. So I think that was definitely an episode that I took some of the most from.
Yeah. And you know what? When they retold that story of how Michael Jordan lost his father, I mean, I've known about Michael Jordan's father passing away when I replayed NBA 2K11, reliving the Father's Day game where he closed out the Seattle Sonics in the 96 finals. You know the one where he had 72 and 10. And unlike Stephen Curry, Warriors, 20 years later, they got the job done.
Yeah.
You know the one. But when they mentioned that Jordan's father got shot in his sleep in his car,
it's tough. It was tough to relive, right? It was just tough to relive.
Literally building up that the incidents that you're dealing with in later years that involves black people, old, young, bold. But
it was just tough. It was
my
tough.
favorite moments. My favorite episode is, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, when he came back from 2 games down to defeat the New York Knicks in the conference finals in '93.
Yeah.
During the 3-peat where he took out Charles Barkley's Phoenix Suns. Because Charles Barkley was having the season of his life. And when he took 2 games from them in Chicago. And I'd be thinking, if this wasn't live, I would have said they would have easily got this series if they would play better at home.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, because it's just difficult to watch how pathetic the Suns are, taking 2 out of 3 games in the toughest place to play and not getting a single home win of your own.
Yeah.
Literally finished him off on his own. Well, he got the pass of Michael Jordan in that late second shot, but you can see if that shot did not went in, it would have won 7 games Phoenix's way.
Yeah, it was everything that you could ask for. Like, I mean, I have really not a critique of that docuseries just because they did a phenomenal job, and it made it so every episode we were all watching, biting our nails. You didn't want to get up to go to the bathroom. You maybe weren't drinking a lot of water before because you didn't want to miss any moment. And I think just, again, job well done. And I think now, I think MJ was reintroduced to this new generation, right? This new generation where when you ask that GOAT debate to these younger of the millennials, they're like, wow. So that was MJ. The millennials that didn't grow up watching him, they got to really see a glimpse into why we call him the GOAT.
I got to know that when I'm playing 2K11. you know the
or
game.
some found out that way, right?
Yeah. And when Kobe Bryant had just started back then, rest in peace, he showed Kobe that getting to his championship level is not going to be a walk in the park.
Exactly.
How great you're going to be after I'm done with the NBA. You're not going to win 5 championships without putting up a fight.
Exactly. Exactly.
When Kobe Bryant started his career off, he shot an air ball in the playoff series against the Utah Jazz. Oh man, those were.
I mean, just take you back through all those memories, So
I watched the highlight where it goes tit for tat. They trade 30-point games. Michael Jordan showed Kobe that it ain't gonna be an easy route.
Yeah. Look, I mean, MJ was that guy, that dude, that everything. You see the respect his teammates had for him. You see the respect that other players had for him, and even now still have for him. I mean, we were live tweeting with NBA players now who were still like, man, Jordan did that, right? And it's just what he amassed himself to, and that's why we love Jordan, right? That's why y'all buy the Jordan sneakers. We love what he can do. What MJ could not do is the real question. But he was a jack of all trades on the basketball court, and many can say he's why the NBA as it is today.
Yeah, and since for the first time in our lifetime we don't have an NBA champion, at least for the month of June in a new decade. What is your favorite decade ever since you were born? The 90s, the 2000s, or the 2010s?
That's such a great question. Honestly, I feel like I'm 90s everything. I love 90s basketball. I love 90s R&B. Like, I think the 90s was a really good time to just be around. But honestly, I think what I love about basketball and really most sports is how they've continued to evolve. Now, let me tell you, I do love old school basketball. I love a true center. I love defense. Now defense is sometimes questionable. A true center, questionable. Because essentially, especially when you look at the position of a center, it's essentially changed. You need to know how to shoot the three ball now, right? Your centers are all over. Guys 6'8" now, want to be point guards. And of course, you have people like Magic who were able to do it just so effortlessly. But I think I'd probably say the 90s. But at the same time, I love basketball the way it is now. I love that, the three ball, it is where it is. Look at someone like Steph Curry, who's just evolved the shooting game. And, now it's just, we have a new crop. And I'm excited now too, because you see how the G League has transformed and now how we have top players going there. And I'm excited to see, what happens with that as we continue to expand it and players kind of have this new option, new true option now of going to the G League. And I really think they've revamped it in a way where it's truly going to be a place to develop players.
And you know what? My favorite decade is the 2010s. The reason why I said 2010s because it's LeBron James.
Yeah, what did he not do in this decade?
Surpassed Michael Jordan in championship rings.
Yeah, well, that's one. But look, LeBron is still trying to play at least a couple. Look, LeBron is trying to get it all done. He's not slowing up. So I'm excited to just see the records that he continues to break because LeBron James is, LeBron James. Like, the man can just do it all. And I think we are all lucky and privileged to get to watch his greatness.
I have a losing record against the San Antonio Spurs and
the
Golden State Warriors.
You have some LeBron hate. Like, I'm not.
No. I'm a diehard LeBron. I was a diehard LeBron fan when I started watching in the mid 2000s. But you gotta look at the statistics. It was disappointing to me that he went all the way. Well, 07 was understandable because it was his first time in the NBA Finals. He didn't have that much of a squad, and you're going up against one of the top teams in the 2000s, in Tim Duncan. For most of the 2000s, it's been the Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant show in years. At least one of them was getting there. Well, with your exception, I should say Tim Duncan, Kobe, and Shaq's show because Shaq led Miami to the finals that 1 year in 06 when I first started watching the NBA. And it was incredible.
Yeah.
The 06 plus was incredible.
I think the only sad thing about the 2010s now, though, is that we're always going to remember we lost one of our greats. And of course, that's Kobe Bryant. And I think, we can all say he was just taken too soon, from us, just way too soon. Because you think about, the Naismith Hall of Fame coming up, and you think about that class. And, we think about Kobe. We think about all that he was doing. And we talked about women's basketball earlier. Think about how much of a champion Kobe was for women's basketball. Think about how we lost Gigi just way too soon and what she was going to do. And I applaud the WNBA for the tribute that they did during the WNBA draft. Even during the recent ESPYs, you have to think about the love and respect that they paid to Kobe Bryant. But, it's hard for all of us because you can only imagine just what was yet to come, and just gone way too soon. So unfortunately, it's like a damper on that end of the 2010s decade. Because essentially this year, like we're all still in shock. 2020 has been a year of ups and downs. On one positive side, you see the removal of the Confederate flag from NASCAR. But then on the other end of it, you unfortunately see the news that was hanging in Bubba Wallace's garage.
Yeah, I got to get to that. I didn't think you would follow NASCAR, but I had to get to that. I'm ready for that. Whoever did that noose on Bubba Wallace, what the hell?
It's sickening. It's disheartening. It's so wrong in so many ways and types of levels, and it just reminds you for every step forward we take, we're taking many more back, unfortunately.
When I was watching the definition of the word noose, I'm like, what's so disrespectful about noose on a NASCAR driver?
You said what's so disrespectful about it? Was that your question?
Yeah.
So it was a noose is threatening in itself because a noose, of course, is what slaves were hung from, what runaway slaves were hung from, what slaves who were disobedient were hung from. It's definitely a reminder to the Black community, to the African American community. It's kind of like a stay in your place. It's very just on all levels, just nasty, despicable. And I'm so glad that NASCAR said that whenever they find who's responsible, because I know there had to be cameras somewhere, that they will be banned from the sport for life. And that to me is really the only applicable punishment.
From my own research, noose does involve a tied rope, but they put it in the car. Yo, that loser needs to go.
Think about it. It didn't just go in the only African American's garage for no reason. All right. It was a reminder of our painful history, kind of like a reminder that the Confederate flag is. A noose kind of, you can say, is tied with the Confederate flag, because in those Confederate states, nooses were shown to slaves. And again, this is just me. I can go deep onto this because I got my certificate in African American Studies and used to TA African civilizations in different courses. But essentially, it's a reminder of the pain and hurtful history that it has. And even still in this country today, if you know about lynching laws, we just now federally became federally unacceptable just now in 2020. So it's sickening, it's sad. And if you know your news and history, people unfortunately are still getting hung to this day.
Man.
So it's another setback.
I'm glad I interviewed you, somebody who actually followed NASCAR, because
and I worked for NASCAR, so I look at it as a different perspective. I was actually first introduced to Bubba Wallace back in 2013. I was a part of NASCAR's diversity internship program. Bubba Wallace has come up through NASCAR's Drive for Diversity program. So I was essentially brought into NASCAR as they were trying to diversify the sport, and this was something that was happening before me and still continues to this day. But I have a different perspective, I think, because I worked in the Charlotte office. I had got a chance to go to races. I had been around the fans. And so I think when I look at a sport like NASCAR, for me, I had a positive experience back in 2013, but to see these steps backward that they've taken in terms of just the threats that Bubba Wallace is having to receive, I do applaud NASCAR for making the step with the Confederate flag that they made. I don't like that it took Bubba Wallace calling them out for them to make it. They should have been known it was wrong, but they took a step forward. But I think they're trying to make the right strides, but some of just the hateful comments that have come to Bubba Wallace, who is living his life as NASCAR's only black driver right now in that series. It's disgusting that he has to face the racism that he's facing.
And he's the only black male in NASCAR.
In that series, yeah.
I'm no fan of NASCAR, but when you're a loser that disrespects a sports athlete of any kind just because of his race, it's disrespectful to the whole community.
It's sad. They
did not do all these protests around America just to look cool with a freaking Black Lives Matter poster saying, no justice, no peace. They did not do that.
It's so sad. It's it's one of those times again that you just kind of have to sigh, because you're just like, wow, why?
And I'm gonna just end it right there. Thank you for stopping by, Kelsey Necole Nelson, and thank you for speaking your knowledge and love for the sports and
thank you for having me
on the news. Because
look, if you ever need history lessons, I got you. I got you. Look, I can talk sports, politics, African American history. I got you.
Lesson just to know how disrespectful news can be to a black man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, and keep up the amazing and great work.
It's all the balls out there. Get your head in the game. And to the NASCAR people, get rid of that nooser.